Hey, I'm Michael, the Marley brother. If there's anything that you're looking at in work, it's kind of weird. The way society runs is based upon a prophetic checking system where everyone writes off money with checking. The fact of the matter is, that becomes a waste of time once the prophecy emphasis starts getting everything back in the arrangement it belongs. When I stayed in Japan, I started a business called Co-Etiquette. The real process of making money brings in a ton more than just directly working for money. The fact of the matter is, Co-Etiquette is a nonprofit business. While I was working, in a matter of 2 week period, I achieved turning the United States of America government from a $7 billion profit industry to an over $30 billion profit industry every month. That was a month by month intake. That was through nonprofit service I did in Co-Etiquette when I stayed in Japan. The fact of the matter is, growing an account that big kind of just stands for a lot of prophetic write-off according to checking. The thing about the US government was they wanted the business work to be involved. They didn't care for the money. They wanted the money to be obsolete. That was the goal of the project. While I was staying in Japan, working at my nonprofit business, there were growths in businesses and industries to scales of higher than $1 billion in some of the industries that we were working with. We had won awards for the work we were doing in nonprofit. The fact of the matter is, after we started making that much money for businesses, all doing nonprofit work emphasis through prophetic understanding of the idea that money is nothing but a false god of mammon, we started winning awards. Uh, there was a lot of donations that were into our business. The donations started coming in. They just started coming in by the loadfuls. The business didn't know what to do but just put the money in towards the business goals. And one of the business goals was to actually, honestly, prophetically, in a checking write-off type of way, get rid of all of mammon. When those donations started coming in a matter of about 2 weeks period, I went from just working nonprofit with donations that were going into the business to being announced a profit across Asia in accordance with Russian management of money. The idea grew where they thought of us as nonprofit workers and they didn't know that we were being provided for. So some of the donations came in specifically for coworkers of mine, Chris Wine and I. Cole didn't have anything to do with that. Cole was my other coworker. He stayed kind of incognito during that period. He didn't want anything to do with the money at all. He's a hardworking guy. He does a lot of concrete work for the industries. The fact of the matter is, once the money started coming in, and we're talking multi-million dollar businesses, there were businesses that were higher than $1 billion, and more than one way. We were into oil, we were into housing, we were into technology, we were into clothing lines, we were into we were into anything and everything that was being produced and putting products on the shelf, and we were working with the Hydro Lehman project so that those products would be free. What we ran into was the Russian government wanted to make sure that we were getting our personal benefit because we were profits. And we began winning awards for all the nonprofit work we did. Once the Russian government found out that there were donations that were trying to be targeted towards our personal benefit, in 2 weeks' time I had gained $7 million. Uh, that was announced on a Friday when it was about 5 million, and that Saturday and Sunday I still made 2 million more. So that week I made. The discussion lasted 2 weeks, and the second week they decided to bring in the actual cash flow, and that at the end of that week I had $7 million personally in my pocket. I started bringing that money forward for the business and investing that into the business works. Most of that went towards the prophetic influence of the fact that God doesn't like money, God doesn't like mammon. Most of that money got burned. The fact of the matter is, the Russian government wanted to make sure that everyone understood that in the prophetic understanding of mammon being nothing but a checking write-off, that was where the work was being done. They mandated that we actually have those funds for our personal pockets. And I was spending all that money through prophetic write-offs with checking. I had a card, and I was using my card everywhere I was going with that. Mostly those write-offs were being used for uh, business influence, and I was working on lighting systems for homes at that particular time. When I had gained 7 million for my prophetic influence with Russia, because Russia doesn't use money. Russia is a free working entity of country. Russia only uses money in negotiations. They print money, and they talk over the idea of not using money at all. The uh, the fact of the matter was, I had gained popularity as a prophet in Japan, and the U.S. government was interested in that. That's when I started. That's when I upped the intake of donation funds from 7 billion to over 30 billion a month for the United States government. After a few months of that, the United States government was looking at the fact that they were bringing in all that money, and they saw where that money was coming from, and they decided that they didn't want to have anything to do with money at all either. Once that money started coming into the United States of America, they saw how fast all that grew, and that was mostly done through emails that brought forth work discussions and design ideas and meeting destinations in order for those funds to be donated to the government for their works with the Hydro Lehman project. Once all that started to get in order, uh, the U.S. government decided they wanted me to have a paycheck of my own too. They wanted to put some money in my pocket. Fact of the matter was, they were more interested in the prophetic influence that I was having as things are. The United States of America government put $1 billion in my pocket under one circumstance, that I was to burn all the money. I started going from city to city, burning money in prophetic testimony, getting the idea out there. I had American funds, and they were all U.S. funds, and I would bring in profits, and I would bring in business persons, and I would have them transfer some of the funds into their currency and have them help burn the money as well, as long as they were working in prophetic checking. The fact of the matter was, I grew famous across the earth for burning the money and working against the slavery of mammon across the earth. The army started working and got involved, and they work highly influenced by the prophetic in the Hydrolehman Project. They guide and instruct in that process. The fact of the matter was, after I got the $1 billion from the United States of America, I went back to work at Coetiquette, developing my lighting systems. I was putting them into homes for free. I was working nonprofit. That started bringing in a lot of donations. When I would put lighting in homes for families for free, it was seen as the light of prophecy and what to do and work, based upon the nonprofit influence. Excuse me. I started bringing in a lot of donations for the business, not only for the lighting, but for all the clothing, for all the industry buildings, for all the facilities, for all the concrete work, for all of the machine work, technology designs, and everything that our business was producing. I started bringing in billions upon billions of dollars to our company. We were talking over 100,000, over $100 billion a month. The business was ringing. It was looked at as the largest influence in monetary flow that there was across the earth. This was my nonprofit business, Coetiquette, in Toxie, Japan. The whole thing was set up according to prophetic influence of checking, in order to write off all money and to gain the influence across the earth to all those interested in working free. We started negotiating with Israel, and we found out that there were a lot of purification problems in Israel. We ran into a lot of purification miracle works that we started to do, and started doing those across the earth. And the more and more we started to do so, we were welcomed into homes, and we started working as prophets that were completely free of mammon. We saw the donations begin to lessen as people across the earth started to run out of their money in the prophetic checking that they were donating. All the funds were being accrued into the bank. Once in the bank, the army was looking at the funds and burning them. Once the army burned them, they would go out and they would work in the influence of the Hydrolehman Project. The Hydrolehman Project still stands today as a testimony of work against all mammon slavery and against all money slavery across the earth. There's a lot of influence through that process that made me feel very free in my work. what I started looking at was the fact that I had grown up in a mammoth slavery society, and I finally got to the point where things were loosening up and people were being a little bit more free about their work ethic. But as things continued, I had a few projects on my plate where I was supposed to work with the Army, where I was supposed to work with the FBI. I went through an FBI program where I thought very hard about social abuses, when they occur, what happens to a person when they're stuck in a situation. That took me about 2 years. I'm still working on that a little bit. In that process, we started running into the fact that the election was coming. I was elected president in 2016. My name is Michael Canfield. I'm transgender and my female name is Avril Kateshi Michelle Obadiah Canfield. The fact of the matter is, I was born female, and I am actually a female person, or a female people. When I get to the point where I start loosening up and working out harder, my body begins to change. And I've been going through a lot of abuse through my lifetime where the cops actually alter my body and make me look like a male on a it's a very usual thing that they do that is kind of evil and abuse. I get tired of that kind of thing, and I'd like to see a lot of change in life where those type of abuses of evil don't exist. They're not present and they're completely made obsolete. I've been like that my whole life. There's a lot of internal passion that comes from a, a very close knit love one on one with God, where internally the passion grows in a lot of doom and wrath according to what's actually been going on in my body. That passion kind of rises in me and feeds my prophecies a lot of what I do. I have a great hatred, or I have a very good hatred for most everything that the police do. They tend to get into evil, and they're very often involved in drug trade and drug processes in order to remain. They try to stay the influence of law in the public eye as law enforcement, and no matter what they do. They're very into money, slavery as things are, and they tend to block that type of thing from being destroyed. It's kind of hard to deal with city by city, but the sheriffs are working to handle those situations, and so is the Army. A lot of people actually work on that type of thing too and become superiors that have the ability to harm and destroy those that are working evil in our life. The one thing that I'm looking at trying to achieve in all of this is to fully get rid of money slaveries across the earth. In part of the works that I'm working on, I've got the Trump administration working very hard on donations. They're looking at donation after donation after donation, just raising the funds for prophetic write-off when it comes to. They're looking at uh, trying to raise the most money they possibly can in order to just prophetically write it off in the end, in conjunction with the Hydro Lehman project. These type of projects bring people to the prophetic realization that that's what they need in their life. The Hydro Lehman project thrives on free products and works to ignite that type of freedom, that type of free work and free enterprise and nonprofit freedom in the hearts and life of all those that take heart into what they do. When I started getting into hydroliman work, there was a lot of workouts involved. There's a lot of thought process involved for design and a very work ethic involved thought process to how to make those ideas come to reality. Not only for people, but for people that are into being free of money slavery. As I go on through this life, I start to realize that these projects are bringing us a lot of peace. I started the Gananon project in order to ignite peace across the earth so that it can be shared amongst the stars with alien life forms. We run into a lot of issues on the earth where just because people aren't in direct contact with aliens, they sometimes don't think they're really there. The fact of the matter is, the Army and engineering work on uh, communication with aliens at all time. The fact of the matter is, they're very real and they're very much there. It's kind of miraculous when they do come around. They're beings from other planetary systems. They come with technology that's kind of out of this world, and it's kind of neat to get into the engineering designs that they bring to the table. That's the kind of thing that the Army's working with. Not only stuff from this planet, but from stuff that's coming from other planets as well. But the Gananon Project is there to bring peace to the whole Earth, to bring peace to every country, to bring peace to the nation of Israel. The idea of the Gananon Project is 100% goal oriented in the athletics, the home product intake of being free from mammon, and the idea of brotherhood and sisterhood across the whole earth. The way that that's going to come about is to share the idea of the Gananon Project and what it means socially amongst the brethren and amongst the sisterhood. Moreover, that's kind of God's way in prophecy as a blessing of gift and talent to bring peace to one another. It's a message that can be shared as a project. It's more than just saying there should be peace. It's actually joining in a project to get of togetherness that can bring that peace into a reality based upon the strength of the project itself. And those brothers and sisters theirself that bring that project to light. When I get going on these type of projects, I want everyone to know that I love them and that there's a lot of prophetic influence in my life from other prophets that have brought me this far in all that I do. I hope that I'm just as strong as you guys have been in the influence of what prophecy brings to the table and the type of healings that can be done spiritually without the influence of money. And I hope that all that is gained from the simple joy of loving one another can come to the table as the blessing of Israel and family life for all countries. Some of this takes purification. Some countries struggle with abuse, and some countries struggle with the money slavery, and some countries struggle with various spiritual conditions that might hinder their hearts from being so zealful and brought to be led by God in order to do the works that they need to do. Our job as people and our job as the prophetically influenced and the prophets and prophetesses is to bring all the conditions of life to a full purity and a full blessing for all those that need the messages of God and need the work of God and the miracles of God in their life. I hope through these works that not only shall we be free of mammon slavery and money slavery, still I hope also that too we might become totally free of the abuses and the ignorances that money slavery brings, where there are doctors that serve money in order to just gain. The fact of the matter is, it takes a spiritual healing to heal. It takes a spiritual purification to purify. It takes a spiritual work of God in order to actually get any work done in the first place. It takes that mind of wisdom to bring us to the realization that these types of works are the types of works that we need in our life. That realization is very real for those that serve and for those that have been hurt. Overcoming in conditions of those abuses is highly important. We have to bring each other into the light of God's love as a togetherness that really molds and joins us hand to hand and in the vision that God has for our life of togetherness. Together we stand, and in all that we do, I think that there is a lot of the type of work that we're looking for. I just think that the checking right off is to a point that it's kind of annoying to have to do all over the place and all over in Tayangs that just don't need the monetary influence. If you're really in that you really want a business that's gonna be booming, it's best to go at it in nonprofit. It's best to see that the work down the road is what's going to bring you credit. It's better to see that the money is worthless and that nonprofit brings in the work influence. Nonprofit brings in people that want to work and serve without the influence of mammon and without the influence of evil. Brings in influence of purity. With those type of influences, your job and your work can become a lot more than just a service that writes off the checks. Your service can begin to heighten in the blessings of the Hydro Lehman project, where work is kind of ping ponged back and forth in a rapid motion, a miracle, and work ethic, so that the whole foundation of work is seen as free provision instead of provided only if you pay the mammon. So it's kind of it's just a win-win situation if you go into work with a nonprofit perspective. It's a win-win perspective when you have the Hydro Lehman project by your side working with you in order to reach those goals of nil mammon. Just burning over $1 billion in order to just testify for the United States of America. I've kind of found out that there are a lot of people out there that don't care about the money too. It's just a matter of getting the work done. It's just a matter of taking the simple fact that work ethic brings about the provisions that we need in life. The Israeli blessings of unity come in family form, and the togetherness of the stars is kind of the goal of prophecy, not only to testify on the earth of peace, not only to testify on the earth in the blessings of being free, but to testify among the stars of what it means to be strong of heart and bold in friendship and family. These are the kind of ideas that I'm working with in prophecy, and these are the ideas I hope to share with you to bring about the change that needs to occur. There's all kinds of ideas throughout technology that are enlightening the life of people everywhere today. Ideas of organization, for methodology, for business ideas, for design work, for color, for culture, for all, not only for the people working, but for the people that use the products as well. I'll leave you with that. And again, my name is Michael Canfield. I'm President of the United States of America, and I'm transgender Queen of Israel. There's a lot of there's a lot of comedy in that, in some sense of the matter. But I have been struggling with that my whole life, and I hope you guys can see that there comes a lot of miracles with the pure side of things rather than the evil. I'll leave you with a blessing in God that everyone see the true messages of prophets in the music and in the songs and in the work ethic that they see around them. And I hope that there's a blessing of miracle in the life of all of you out there. This is a message once again uh, from me, Michael Canfield. Also, my name in female is Avril Conteshi Michelle Obadiah Canfield. Thank you.